Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to the show. Sorry about running late. A few technical difficulties going on this morning, but not to worry. I am back in action. All right, let's jump into our information for today. First up, we have the space weather. Space weather tells us that our solar wind is blowing at 372.6 kilometers per second. Our planetary K index, you could see, is extremely low. We're down to a 0, so we really have nothing to be concerned with in that regards. And if we go up here, let's say we have Curiosity and the solar storm. Last month, a massive solar storm launched itself towards Mars, just as NASA's new rover Curiously was blasting off from Cape Canaveral in the same direction. Researchers say it was a welcome coincidence. For the first time in Mars rover history, Curiosity is equipped to study solar storms, and it will be monitoring space weather all the way to the red planet. Alright, moving right along from there, let's take a look at our astrology for today. Our sign for today is Sagittarius, as it has been, so we're still dealing with issues and energies that are prompting us to look at philosophical issues, open-minded thinking, expanded thinking, things of that nature. Mercury is back direct, so we're past the phase where it was retrograde and kind of people's thoughts were kind of going haywire and crazy, into things a bit more calm. And our moon is in the sign of Leo, moving into Virgo. And our moon phase, check this out here. You can see the moon's going down quite a bit. It dropped down. It was just like 90 some yesterday, and now it dropped quite a bit to 75% full by today, making its way down to no moon at all. And our dream spell for today is the Yellow Overtone Warrior. Yellow Overtone Warrior, guided by the seed. The phrase today is, I empower in order to question, commanding fearlessness. I seal the output of intelligence with the overtone tone of radiance. I am guided by the power of flowering. And today is a galactic activation portal day, a day where the energy is somewhat doubled and intensified. Alright, that's our cosmic weather for today. Our first story up is a story about Ron Paul. And this is coming to us from Pastor James David Manning. We haven't heard from him in a while. We're going to hear from him today, see what he has to say about the whole Ron Paul affair. Let me get things set up here. Alright, this should get us going. Let's check it out. I'll be back. Here we go.
Will Ron Paul pull off an upset? Anybody out there want to make a $10,000 bet? Anybody got a $10,000 bet? Want to make a $10,000 bet that Ron Paul will pull off an upset in Iowa? Let's see, we got 3 weeks. The Tea Party's attention span is about, I suppose they're good for like 4 weeks and then they move on. So they've been hot now on Newt for about a week. Since Herman 99999999999999999999999 came, has dropped out. It's been a week now and 3 days. There's a high potential that Ron Paul might walk off with the Iowa caucus. He may win Iowa. I can guarantee you Romney's not going to win it. There ain't no way they're going to let that Mormon win. You know, plus he's a flip-floppy. Everybody knows Mormon that Mittens Protection Program Romney is a hardcore liberal. We all know it. I wouldn't be surprised if he and Hillary Clinton aren't dating one another. He and Bill Clinton playing golf together or playing something else far more nefarious. But anybody want to let me know if you want to bet me. Well, I'll ask Mitt Romney to put up for me the $10,000 because I don't have it. But Mitt's got it. A $10,000 bet. Ron Paul will pull off an upset in Iowa. Want to bet? You want to bet? I'm betting on Paul. Who you betting on? You got to bet on You just got to bet against him. That's all you got to just bet against Paul that he will not do it. But, you know, the Tea Party people, they're the ones who are now behind Newt Gingrich. They're the ones that are promoting Newt. They're the ones, and they just, you know, what I'm going to be talking about, the jungle fever, because they had jungle fever when they were running behind, what's his face? Herman 9999999999999999999999999 Kane. Now they're behind Newt. Newt surprised himself. Newt wasn't. Listen, I don't think you talk about Herman Cain was never in it to win it. I don't really think Newt ever thought that he would get this far. I don't. You know, can we talk? I mean, just the two of us, right? And besides, you're very smart. I like you. There's a lot of people I don't like, but I like you. So can you and I talk? You know, because if I didn't like you, I'd say some other things. See, and I wouldn't talk to you. I don't talk to people I don't like, but I like you. So here's the deal. Newt never thought Newt was in this to build his profile. He's got nothing to do. Callisto, his wife, wants a new Tiffany tiara, and he doesn't have the money. So he wants to sell books, kick up his speaking engagement, and he was thinking maybe Fox News would hire him and get rid of Greta Van Susteren. That's what he was thinking. Because Newt and Greta Van Susteren look just like. Don't they look like sisters and brother, Newt and Greta Van? Don't they look alike? I do declare before God and 7 other responsible people. Newt and Greta Van Susteren look exactly alike. And Newt was praying. Newt don't want to be president. Why would he want to do that? Even Bill Clinton was promoting Newt. Newt wanted to sell some books, kick up his speaking engagement fees, and get a job on Fox News and retire Greta Van Susteren. That was all that. Now they want him to be. The Tea Party said, well, Newt, we want you to be president. Newt said, I got to find a way to get out of this now. I'm going to get out of this. How? Well, Newt, don't worry. I think Ron Paul is going to be your answer. I think Ron Paul is going to be your answer. And that witness protection program guy, Romney, everybody, Romney is a liberal. He's a liver, lizard, lying lizard, liberal. Witness protection program, Romney. But me, I'm James David Manning, the quintessential American, and this is the Manning Report.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, I've got some good stories for today. Let me bring them up here. Our first story is going to come to us from the Examiner. Here we go. The Examiner, Roger Marsh. Glowing disc UFO moves from witnesses at impossible speed. A California witness driving southbound along 57 freeway from San Dimas heading towards Orange County reports that a bright white glowing disc appeared out of nowhere, hovered momentarily, and then took off at what seemed to be an impossible speed, heading south in a perfectly straight line on December 13, 2011, according to the testimony from the Mutual UFO Witness Reporting Database. The witness said the object may have been enormous. It was either big or somewhat close, the witness stated. The witness had a hard time describing how fast the object moved. It took off so fast that it had a triangular trail following it. Only thing I compare the trail to was what may be a Star Trek or Star Wars ship looks like as it jumps into light speed. It was the military. I was in the military and I've seen supersonic aircraft, and this was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was so fast I can hardly put words to it. Said the object also had an unusual characteristic. It seemed to have a glowing blue ring inside what appeared to be a white glowing surface. Alright, story's up online. You can follow that. Our next story comes to us from the scottwaring.blogspot.com. Amazing UFO moves below clouds in Hawaii on December 13th. If you watch carefully, you will notice a dark orb that moves about around the UFO. Also, the shape of the UFO is oval and seems disc-like, but the intense light makes it appear as an orb. The front light of the craft is very bright light shining out for a little bit, but disappears. A great capture in Hawaii. Let's check this out. Alright, this is brought to us by third phase of the moon. And there we go. There's our bright light. And pretty darn bright. It's in the clouds now. It comes out of the clouds. You'd expect you might see something a little different, but nope, same bright white light. Alright, that's the bright light in Hawaii. We now have, from the same site, Scott Waring blog spot. These are UFO fleet of 5 orbs over Mexico City, 13th. Hi friends, today I present a video recorded with my cell phone. The day is December 13th at approximately 14:50, where we see the fleet of 5 foreign objects, video recorded at the center of Mexico City. Alright, let's take a check at this. Should be right in the middle of the screen. And it's still a little bit light at this moment. Okay, there you can start to see as he makes it a little darker. You can kind of see there's one right here. Just keep. You can barely see them, but they're out there. They're just like little white dots. Now they're not just dots on the screen. You could tell that there's something up there. There's one. There's another one. Alright, the video is online for you to check out in more detail. Now we have this story here. This one has to do with a Christmas tradition we all know about. UFO sightings during the Geminids meteor shower linked to Magi star at its rising. The Star of Magi was a stellar event when the Star of Bethlehem was a supernova or a hypernova occurring in the nearby Andromedan galaxy, explaining an Oregon State University astronomer here at Braze Point Tuesday night. We're looking for the Geminid meteor shower that is also scheduled to fill the heavens December 14th. The story of the Magi star at its rising when Jesus was born is also part of the history of our solar system, adds the astronomer who proposes that UFO entity evidence that accompanied the Three Kings story when they were drawn to the Star of Bethlehem. Moreover, in 1614, German astronomer Johannes Kepler determined that a series of 3 conjunctions of the planets, Jupiter and Saturn, occurred in the year 7 BC, while Kepler also argued that the planetary conjunction could create a nova, which he linked to the Star of Bethlehem or the Star of the Magi. Geminids allow Earthlings to view meteor shower and possible UFOs. According to local astronomer group from nearby Oregon State, the Geminid meteor shower will peak on the 14th, which was last night. They are simply a debris stream for an asteroid called Phaethon 3200, explained a local astronomer, while the Washington Post reported how the Geminids will radiate near the constellation Gemini. The Geminid meteor shower, one of the top light show peaked last night. So it's a longer article, but the connections in between this and the Star of Bethlehem are quite fascinating. And our last story here is about the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is one of 4 Vedas, said to be the world's most ancient text. In fact, personally consider all 4 Vedas to be of the same time, for Rig Veda clearly contains references to other Vedas as well. For instance, Purusha Sakta. Do other Vedas contain the references to Rig Veda? If 3 Vedas were later texts, then there is no possibility for an earlier text to refer to a later text. I wonder why people defy common sense were not necessary, but the same people stick to common sense where defying it is necessary. Prejudice, common sense, if I may say so. Let us come back to the topic of aliens in Rigveda. One of the hymns is of interest to us in this case. The first line here talks about the generation of gods. The second line is more interesting, for it says that we might again see the next generation of gods in the future. When these hymns are being recited again, it has to be noted here that is not seeing the gods, it is seeing the future generation of gods. If so, what are they now? Seeing in the future means, will they visit us from where? A clear indication of the return of aliens, isn't it? Well, a bunch more to this article. I've read through. It's pretty fascinating. You should do the same. It's up at our page, First Contact Radio, right-hand side UFO News. All right, we're going to jump away to a song. I'll be back momentarily. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. One if by land and two if by sea, and I and the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right.
This time, okay, continuing on. Our next story is about Ron Paul again. This time it is a story that comes to us from Fox, and this is Neil Cavuto talking about Ron Paul gaining steam. Now, there's one thing I would like you to really pay particular attention to. You remember that TV show, what was it, Lie to Me? Where they talked about how people have micro expressions, and you can tell by their little micro expressions what they're really thinking or what's going on. Well, at the very start of this clip, watch the little micro expression there on Neil Cavuto's face when as he gets ready to go in to read this story about Ron Paul. You could tell he's not too excited about it, and it's very evident. He has a scowl on his face, and it comes in right at the very beginning. So as soon as I get this thing started, I want you to pay right attention to his first. I'll even go ahead and I'll freeze the frame. Check this out. Look at this. Look at that look on his face there. And he takes the sigh. He has to announce about Ron Paul. Let's listen to what Neil has to say.
The emergence of Ron Paul has stunned quite a few people in this state. Everyone has been focusing right now on Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney and how they slug it out for the nomination. But in this state, he's the guy with the big momentum. And in the latest poll, within just a percentage point of the presumed front runner here, that is, for the moment, Newt Gingrich. The Texas congressman joins me right now. Congressman, what do you make of these numbers, and what do you think of the possibility you win this state?
Well, I guess that's very possible now, and the numbers are more or less what many of us in our campaign had expected, because we've been working to that end, and we've been organizing and doing the things we're supposed to do. But I also think that there's a very powerful message that we've been delivering, and it's very appropriate. I think the people do need some answers to our problems, and I talk about economics for a long time. I've talked about bubbles and how we got into this trouble and what we ought to do, and I have proposed significant cuts. And quite frankly, I think we're giving a lot of answers to the questions that so many people across the country are asking.
You know, the one thing that happens when you become a front runner or near front runner, Congressman, is you also become a target. Newt Gingrich has discovered that. Tomorrow night, might you discover that?
Well, that's always possible, but for some reason it seems like they've been pretty courteous to me, and I think that they have worked out, at least on the assumption up until now, that they don't want to offend my supporters because maybe they'd like to, have alliance with them. But no, I think you're right. I think people who lead get a lot of criticism, and I would think that I've been challenged on my views for a long, long time. Matter of fact, I've been challenged more than the rest of them have, and as long as they challenge me on the appropriateness of my views, I think I better be able to answer them. But I think I have the ammunition to defend a balanced budget and cutting spending and looking into the Federal Reserve and finally addressing the subject of a runaway interventionist foreign policy, which is draining us so much, in a good place where we can cut some money that wouldn't hurt our people back here at home.
You know, Congressman, the last day or so I've been here in this fine state, particularly in Sioux City, I've had an opportunity, because we have it playing in the press room, of watching Iowa TV coverage and a lot of political commercials. And while a lot of the campaign ads that I see are sort of warm and fuzzy and back to America of old and Newt Gingrich back to the good old days and America's great, nothing wrong with that, yours tend to be much more in your face, much more direct, much more issue oriented. And given these poll numbers, they seem to be resonating. But is that by design? Some of your opponents will claim, well, Ron Paul's just going negative. Or has that just been your style all along?
Well, I think negative, in a real negative sense, is when you go after people and you demagogue and distort and fib and take things out of context and become personal. But to talk about people having different positions and having voted for certain things, I think that's appropriate and very necessary. I think that's one of my obligations, to point these things out of the opponents so that they can see a difference. But they're not going to volunteer and tell us, the other candidates aren't going to tell us about their shortcomings, nor does the media do a real good job all the time on bringing up the differences on the issues that I care about. So I think that's my obligation to do that.
You know, this has come at a time when some of the candidates who dallied about being in the race versus not are entertaining third-party runs. Gary Johnson maybe looking at a libertarian run tomorrow with an announcement. And last night on this very show, Congressman, Donald Trump on the possibility of a third-party run. I want you to hear this and respond to this.
I am looking at it if the Republicans choose the wrong candidate, which is a possibility, and if the economy continues to be bad, which I think it will be because we have incompetent leadership.
All right, so you're raising the distinct possibility of running as an independent then?
That's right.
All right, what do you think of if he does that, if Governor Johnson does that, of anyone among the Republican candidates already competing, do that?
Well, I think for Trump, that's just more attention getting. I don't think it's likely from the other candidates, but I think that there's always that possibility. You know, there was a moderate, liberal type of candidate in 1980, John Anderson, who ran as a third-party candidate. So maybe one of these other candidates that come across more moderate, if they don't make it, maybe they'll say, hey, you know what, so-and-so doesn't fit the bill, I'm going to run. So maybe there will be, and the American people are so frustrated. I can see the motivation of some people doing that, but I don't think it's limited to Donald Trump.
You know, when I raised this very issue with your son, Senator Rand Paul, about you, because the rumors were out there, and you never really altogether quashed them, that you would run as an independent candidate if things didn't go the Republican route. What do you say?
Same thing I've said about 35 times and maybe 10 times on your program. I don't have a different answer. You know, no intention of doing it. But I think what I was hinting to a minute ago is maybe you ought to ask some of those moderate Republicans that aren't doing so well. Maybe they'll run as a John Anderson type candidate more so than asking me that question. But my answer remains the same.
Okay, so finally, your sense of this race in Iowa, do you think you have to win here, Congressman, that this is where you put a lot of your upfront marbles, and that this is where you got to do it?
I don't think I would say I have to win it, but I must not come in fifth place or even fourth place. So I have to do well.
Okay.
But right now we're doing very well, and makes us more optimistic, and I think we're very much in contention, and that's very good news for us.
All right. We're looking forward to see you tomorrow. Congressman, thank you very, very much. Ron Paul. When we come
All right, very interesting. During the whole time, he seemed to have a frown on his face. Doesn't seem to be happy about talking to Ron Paul. Oh, well, too bad, Neil Cavuto. Too bad. Sorry, don't always get to talk to the corrupt politicians. Sometimes there's good ones on there. Now, here we got another Ron Paul, this a little bit shorter. This is in regards to a possible government shutdown or not. Let's listen to this.
There could be a government shutdown as early as this weekend unless the appropriations bills are passed. What's going on? Why is Congress so dysfunctional?
Well, this dysfunction seems to be business as usual. How many times have we gone through this in the last couple of years? It sort of is to be routine. You know, at the last minute, they go down to the wire and they negotiate up to the bitter end, always trying to get one angle over the other one. So I don't think the government's going to shut down. It hasn't happened in a long, long time. So I don't think it's in the interest of either party to do it. So they'll probably come up with some compromise at midnight, and settle the argument.
But it does send a horrible message when various agencies of the federal government are told, get ready, so-called non-essential personnel may be out of work as early as Saturday or Sunday. I mean, it sends an awful message out there that the people in Washington can't get their act together. I'm just saying. But if you disagree with me, go ahead.
Right. No, I think the problem is that the people in Washington that I know don't admit that we have a serious crisis on our hand, a financial crisis, and they don't know how bad it is because we're bankrupt, and yet we're preparing ourselves through the Federal Reserve to bail out all of Europe. And there's no money, and the debt is the problem. So they're up against the wall, and nobody wants to cut anything. But if they knew how bad it was, they would cut, and they would start living within our means, and that means looking at all the budget. But no, they're going to delay it. They think it's a football game, and they're going to play it and see who's going to get the best edge in the next election, to see who can maintain or gain power. And they haven't changed their ways, but they won't admit the necessary admission of that we are bankrupt and we better do something about it, or this condition in our country and throughout the world, financial system, is going to get much worse.
Let me go through a couple of the issues on the agenda right now. Increasing taxes, unless action is taken, the payroll tax cut will go away. The tax rates for 160 million Americans will go up. Where do you stand on extending the payroll tax cut for another year?
Oh, I want to extend it because I see it as a tax increase. And the system isn't run like it should be. You know, we're supposed to have money in the bank and have a trust fund. That doesn't exist. So it's all been spent into the general revenues. And so many of these funds from Social Security has been spent overseas. So I want to pay for it. That's the whole thing. But I don't consider paying for it by punishing one group and taking that money and giving it to the other group. So I'd pay for it, extend the tax credit cut, and pay for it by overseas spending. For instance, why are we going to pretend that we're leaving Iraq, and we really are, and we're going to maintain the biggest embassy in the world and have 17,000 personnel there that are contractors making twice as much as our military? You can save billions of dollars doing that. So, yes, we have to address it. This is a reason nobody wants to give up a nickel on this overseas expenditures, and that's the best place to cut in order to save our system and take care of our Social Security beneficiaries and the health care, the people who have become so dependent. But I have no idea why they won't consider this. And evidently the lobbyists for spending this money overseas and for the military is so powerful that neither Democrats nor Republicans want to really talk about cutting overseas spending. Bring troops home. That would save billions of dollars. So the money is there, but this idea that you have to raise taxes on the rich in order to pay for the payroll tax cut, it makes no sense, and that's why they're arguing about it.
All right, very good. So every year they do the same thing. Now, what are they arguing about right now in Washington? What is the bill that's on the table? Folks, it's this bill that's on the table. The indefinite detention bill. This article comes to us from InfoWars' Paul Joseph Watson. Human Rights Watch has labeled President Obama's U-turn on his decision to veto the NDAA bill, which empowers the government to indefinitely detain Americans without trial, as a historic tragedy for rights. But should we really be surprised given the fact that it was Obama's White House with ensured language that would have protected U.S. citizens was removed from the bill in the first place? With the House passing a revived version of the bill last night and the Senate set to follow, Obama could sign the legislation into law before the end of the week, after the White House dropped its threat to veto the National Defense Authorization Act, which under Section 1031 empowers the government to arrest Americans and hold them in detention with no legal recourse. By signing this defense spending bill, President Obama will go down in history as the president who enshrined indefinite detention without trial in U.S. law, said Kenneth Roth, executive director of Human Rights Watch. In the past, Obama has lauded the importance of being on the right side of history, but today he is definitely on the wrong side. So Osama is about to sign the bill. I know I said Osama instead of Obama, but really what's the difference at this point? The guy in office is a liar. He's been lying. He doesn't prove himself to be a friend of the Americans. He thinks there's 57 states in this country. His parents aren't born in America. He doesn't deserve to be president. On and on and on it goes. The lies continue from this man. And everybody thought there would be such great change. Let me ask you, is this the kind of change that you were hoping for? Were you hoping that he was going to sign a bill that makes you and all other Americans potential domestic terrorists? Is that what you were hoping for? Because that's what you got from this guy. And I'm guessing that you're going to continue to get the same since his term is up pretty soon. You're not going to see this guy doing anything more worthwhile. He hasn't done anything worthwhile yet. All you're going to see this guy do now is just be a lame duck. Sign in bills that are not popular, take away more rights, do the things that somebody like him would do. And signing this bill, you should understand now what this guy's character is about. This guy doesn't care about you. If he did, he wouldn't sign this bill. Let's see what he's really about. So far, he's 100% on being a dishonest person, because whatever he said he doesn't do. This is just another case. They said they were going to veto it. Oh, they're not. I guess the president's going to lie again. It's a shame. It's a shame that there's people like that running the country. But it's a good thing that there's other candidates out there that have some integrity, at least one. Now, here's another issue that is kind of mind-boggling as well. Thomas Keene, who is one of the commission members for the 9/11 Commission report, he goes on to say now he was confronted by We Are Change for the third time, and this time Thomas Keene said aftershocks from the plane caused the collapse of WTC Building 7. Okay, folks. Let's just think about this for a minute. You got two buildings over here, and you got a building over here, and these buildings got hit by a plane earlier in the day. Two planes. This building over here didn't get hit by a plane, but this guy is saying that these two buildings had aftershocks in the morning that somehow created a collapse over here in the evening. Right. If you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you, my friends. I got a bridge, and it says, Keene claims the Bureau of Standards final report on the collapse of WTC-7 found that aftershocks from the planes hitting the Twin Towers caused the foundation of Building 7 to weaken and collapse. First, it is important to note that the National Bureau of Standards changed its name back in 1988 to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. Second, nowhere in NIST's final report does it say that aftershocks from the impact of the planes caused or even had a factor of collapse of the Building 7. All I could say is this. If a building collapsed because of the aftershocks from the airplane, all I know is there better be some engineers rushing down to New York right now, and they better check the foundations of all of these other buildings around there, because those buildings obviously had to receive the same aftershocks that World Trade Center 7 did. And if that one collapsed because of the aftershocks, you better get out of those buildings and you better have some engineers check them, because if that's true, there could be a whole lot of buildings ready to fall out there. Of course, We who have been paying attention know it's not true. We know that this guy is just full of a whole lot of nonsense and hot air. Just another way that they're trying desperately to cling to the lies and get you to believe the lies. You know, the book of Revelations talks about these times, talks about these times, and it talks about how people are so willing to accept the lie and will accept the lie. Here we are going into 2012 and people are fighting to know the lies. They don't want to know the truth, but people will defend the lies. It's a crazy world, my friends. And the very last thing we're going to do before we do our meditation here is part 3 of They Live, We Sleep Deeply. Talks exactly about everything I'm saying and about the lies. Here we go. Brought to you from the Celtic Rebel.
Inside the alien underground compound, we are shown a view looking inwards towards the Earth's central sun from deep inside the Earth. Now that's a reference to Hollow Earth, and there was actually one even earlier in the movie. Those unfamiliar with Hollow Earth should really read up on the topic. It is quite fascinating. Those skeptics out there who say, the Earth can't be hollow, that couldn't be. To you, all I have to say is, if you're coming to the realization that all the history you were taught in your life was lies, what makes you think that most of the science you were taught wasn't lies as well?
How you doing, boys? I didn't know you'd been recruited. Welcome aboard.
Wait a minute. That guy looks familiar. Where have we seen him before?
Can somebody please explain to me what the hell that's all about? Just that idiot licking his nuts again.
Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
They're pulling the water out of the sand like sponge. Blow it out your ass. Goddamn hacker, that second damn night that asshole's cut in.
It's the vagrant from before. He's the one that was dismissing everything that was being said by the voice of truth. And now he's an elite? Wait, that can only mean one thing. He was a disinfo agent. He was planted there from the start to disseminate false information and mislead the public. Kind of like your Anderson Coopers and Wolf Blitzers and countless others, more than I could name in the media. Now, what was that he said about a boy from San Anselmo?
I've been hearing something on the streets the last couple of weeks. Weird stuff. Some sort of epidemic of violence, what they've been saying. I was talking to one old boy, he's from San Anselmo. He told me they got some sort of cult up there. End of the world kind of stuff.
San Anselmo? That's where George Lucas is from. Now, were anyone to take a look at George Lucas's movies, you could find a whole array of either occult information or overt references to present events, such as the destruction of the empire in correlation to America, the imaginary Osama bin Laden as correlated with General Grievous, the existence of 2 suns on the home planet, the Death Star according to some beliefs, and even Executive Order 66 being used to kill all the Jedis. I suppose one could draw an interesting hypothesis about the correlation between George Lucas and the disinfo agent as presented in this film. Speaking of disinfo agents, we're presented with one more before the film is through.
All the sex and violence on the screen has gone too far for me. I'm fed up with it. Filmmakers like George Romero and John Carpenter have to show some restraint.
Did he say George Romero? Well, that's kind of interesting, because if you're under the impression that George Romero's movies are gross-out horror films about zombies eating humans, then you've missed the boat entirely. His movies are social commentary about what is happening in our present world around us. If you want to see who the zombies are, just walk outside and you'll see them all around you. They're wearing their bling, looking cool, wearing the latest fashions, and driving cars they can't afford. As for the survivors, they're the ones who are trying hard to retain their individuality. But I'm going to have to save that topic for another blog. Now, this film does have a customary love interest, but under the surface, there's much more to it. This woman's name is Holly, and the most significant detail about her is that she has very interesting eyes. I dare say reptilian, but there's something beyond that. Something very alluring about them, and just something very off at the same time. And I think that's also by design. And what does she do? She betrays him 3 times, leading up until the very end, where it would have been the 4th, until he actually kills her, which may be a symbolic act as well. And what does she say before he kills her?
Come inside with me.
She's not necessarily talking about inside the building. She's saying, forget about the elites. Forget about this control. Forget about trying to change the world. Come inside with me. Be with me. A few forward thinkers are now arguing that we were never intended for lifelong monogamous relationships, and that the entire concept and idea is just yet another control mechanism designed to prevent us from ever finding our true selves. Notice in the movie the pattern is, he tries again and again and again. He keeps failing, but he keeps going back to it. Same with us. How many times do we keep repeating these relationships that end up in disillusionment, only to think that that is the only solution out there for ourselves? It stops us from finding our higher self. And what happens at the end of the movie? He kills her. In other words, he is free of that control mechanism. And this is further exemplified by at the very end of the movie, when he's facing certain death, what does he do? He flips his enemies the bird. He no longer has fear.
Then you have no fear anymore. You're completely free.
And now he is truly free. He has transcended. In my mind, the aliens in this film are symbolic. Yes, someone could argue that aliens are what is actually at the top of the proverbial pyramid. But as far as this movie goes, I don't think it really even matters. The most important revelation is that there is a system of control in place, and the television is a big part of it. So in my eyes, step one is stop the system of control, and then start worrying about who's actually holding the reins. Now, there are many competing theories out there about whether the Zionists run the show, or it's the Vatican, or it's an Anglophile network, or it's the Atenists, or the lizard people, or gray aliens, some other aliens, the Nazis, Druid wizards, Freemasons, Satanists, and the list goes on and on. Now, while some of these theories may have more merit than others, I personally believe that a lot of these groups are one and the same. I also believe there are factions that play on the global stage and that their agendas aren't always one and the same. And it really doesn't matter, like I said, who it is. What matters is stopping the systems of control, and it goes beyond the television into where we give our time and money to. Now, if you're one of these people that doesn't believe this is actually happening, well, you better start believing it, because it's real. Stop being told what to think. Stop receiving information and start processing and learning it for yourself. The architects of your world are more than happy to openly tell you exactly what they have in plan for you. Listen to this quote from Aldous Huxley. There will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method for making people love their servitude and producing dictatorships without tears, so to speak. Producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it, because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. There you have it, in their own words, and I could find thousands of other quotes just like this. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to change your own future? As for me, I personally received a little inspiration the other night from a rather unconventional source. I caught a rather synchromistic episode of the Futurama cartoon. This episode featured a set of robot elders, donned in robes reminiscent of Stanley Kubrick's elites from the film Eyes Wide Shut. Now, those of you who follow Jordan Maxwell's teachings will appreciate the Saturnalian sync between the word elders and elites. Now, the episode was actually rather matter-of-fact about how a shadowy Illuminati type of organization was actually running the world from, oddly enough, down below inside the earth, while the surface dwellers or the general masses were completely unaware that their society was being controlled. At the end of the episode, these robot elders were forced to admit that they themselves were not quite sure if a particular piece of information was actually the deep occult knowledge that they kept to themselves, or disinformation that had been created to keep the ignorant masses in check.
Can they really breathe fire, or did we make that up?
Gee, I can't remember anymore. It might just be from that stupid movie.
The reason for this was that they themselves were actually the descendants of those that had originally set up the system of control on that planet. So all this information had been handed down to them, which reminds me of a book called Autonomous Technology, about how a system can be designed to actually run in perpetuity with no adjustments further being needed. And once the creators or the masterminds of that system are long gone, their descendants may no longer even know how to tweak or operate the system at all. Now, if you look at the result of years and years and years of inbreeding among the ruling bloodlines of this planet today, it should be obvious that they are but pale shadows of what their ancestors once were. And you could also logically deduce that the reason they've had to resort to extreme measures, such as vaccinations and pharmaceutical methods to dumb us down now, is to keep us from gaining a natural intellectual advantage. And finally, for those of you who've made it this far and still somehow do not believe that They Live is actually a film about our present world, I close with the following image taken at an airport in London. Just go ahead, relax, and shop.
Shit. We're all in it together, kid.
Until next time, folks, much love, the Celtic Rebel.
All right, very good. Good stuff there from the Celtic Rebel. I hope you got a lot out of this series. Check it out. I played it the last 3 days in a row, so you can definitely find it if you haven't already. All right, I believe next up will be our meditation. And all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and relax. I simply want you to imagine that you are walking along a path. And as you are walking along the path, I want you to imagine that you see others on the path as well. And as others are walking along the path, just like you, there's a realization that you have, that they have, and that is we're all in this together. And as we are all in this together, there's an opportunity for us to make some positive changes to the system that is not working. And it starts by going inside and making the changes first and foremost into you. And by making the changes to your system that isn't working, and inspiring others to make the changes in their system that's not working, we come to an opportunity in fixing the situation that we fix our problems. And as we fix our problems, life becomes a bit more bearable. And as we fix our problems, we're able to enjoy more of life because we don't have the same distractions and problems in our way. Let's imagine all of our chakras are activated, starting with the chakra at the bottom of your spine. The color is red. Raise the energy up to the second chakra. The color is orange. Up to the chakra above it. The color is yellow. All the way to the heart chakra. Imagine the color green. From the heart chakra all the way up to the throat. Imagine the color blue. From the throat chakra, raise the energy up to the third eye. Imagine the color violet. And finally to the top of your head, imagine the color indigo. Feel all this multicolored light floating within your body. See it overflowing, forming the line of protection around you, your spiritual armor. And let's just send love all around the planet to each and every individual, friends and enemies. And let's think a good thought for everybody in the world. And with that, we'll bring our energy and intention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it, my friends. That's our prayer, our show, our meditation for today. It was a little bit rocky getting things going here in the studio, but nonetheless, we've made it through, and that's the important part. The information has been passed on. Please use it wisely, share it with others. The information here and that those of us are putting out in this alternative media is very, very important. The world's changing. You need to be an active participant in it. That's how we're going to make the big difference, my friends. We're going to be okay. We just got to make it through this rough patch. But we're all in this together. So let's figure it out together. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here.